So welcome everybody. It's a few minutes before we actually get going for our chair yoga class this afternoon, but I'm glad you're here. Some things that you might find helpful to gather while we're getting ready is, of course, a nice sturdy chair. You can use a folding chair, or if you have a nice sturdy kitchen chair, not a counter height stool, but a nice sturdy kitchen chair, that's so helpful. Today we're going to focus a lot on feet, knees, and hips, and we'll be using a yoga block. If you don't have that at home, you can always use a full box of Kleenex. That works pretty good. And then the other prop that comes in handy is a strap. So there's such a thing as a yoga strap. If you don't have that, you're more than welcome to use a scarf or an old necktie, the belt off your house coat. All of those things come in handy for us when we're working through our postures. So just while we're waiting for everybody to finish zooming through, I wanted to just kind of set our class up. Many of us have joint discomfort, wear and tear, it happens. And sometimes we go and we get treatment for that particular joint. In yoga, we see everything as interconnected. And it doesn't seem to be a long-term solution or a particularly effective solution to just work on one particular joint. So I like to look at the toes, the ankle, the knees, and the hips all at the same time. Now, there's a reason you probably signed up for chair yoga as opposed to some of the other yoga classes that are offered through Wellspring. And it might be because you have trouble getting up and down from the floor, or you've had a replacement in either a knee or a hip. And let me assure you that there is no absolute reason why you can't get up and down from the floor, even if you've had a joint replacement. So part of our class today is we will look at a potential method for you to get up and down from the floor. I think this is a really important skill to recuperate if you haven't had a chance to do that. If balance is an issue, then we can use a chair to help us with that. But when you get into rehabbing or working with these joints, it's amazing how your life can open up again, how you can start reclaiming some of those things that maybe you just didn't think were very available to you. Okay, so we're going to come into the start of our practice. So if I could invite you to get comfortable in your chair, you could be sitting, I'm sitting in my office chair right now. I haven't moved to my practice chair yet. So you could be sitting on your couch, or if your practice chair is comfortable for you, you can sit there. And just align yourself with the back of the chair so you've got some support for your spine. Bring your feet to the floor and align your feet in a parallel position and let your feet rest heavily to the ground. So if you can avoid crossing your legs, that would be wonderful just to start class. You can close your eyes or look down at the floor. You can let your arms rest on your lap, or if you have arms on your chair, your arms could rest there, as long as your shoulders feel supported. And let's begin class by just acknowledging the body that has arrived on your chair this afternoon. Feeling your feet, noticing your ankles, feeling your calf muscles, your knees, your thighs, noticing the spread of your buttocks muscles over the seat of the chair. And notice how your back can rest against the back of the chair or the couch, that contact that it makes. And then noticing the weight of your hands, and noticing the weight of your arms, if they might be resting in your lap or on the chair. Notice how your head is aligned. So if you feel like your head's hanging forward quite a bit, is it possible to just kind of draw the head back? So not lift the chin, but it's kind of like you have Spock ears, you know, from Star Trek. And those Spock ears are kind of like pointed up. They're kind of lifting up, drawing your head directly backwards to center a little bit more over the spine. So the chin is slightly tucked in. Not dropped per se, but slightly tucked in. And then let's pay attention to how it feels to breathe in this position. Breathing happens, of course, quite automatically. We don't think about it that much when we're busy with other things. But right now, could you just notice inhaling and exhaling the sensations of breath moving in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils? And just kind of become a little bit, fascinated by that. This happens so automatically for us normally, but in yoga, we talk a lot about how to consciously breathe. And then through that conscious connection with breath, all kinds of doorways open up. Things that we didn't think we could fix, things that we didn't think we had access to. All of a sudden, the potential seems possible. So paying attention to breathing. And I'm going to suggest one particular kind of way to think about breathing just for a minute or two. If this becomes very, not comfortable for you, then don't worry about it. It's just a visualization, kind of. So feel the air coming in through your right nostril. Maybe there's a lot of air, maybe there's not much air, but just notice air moving through the right nostril. And then notice air moving through the left nostril. Again, there might be a lot of air, not much air. Doesn't really matter, just noticing that. And then notice when you breathe through both nostrils, the air moves in through the nose, and you feel as though at some point up there in the head, the air from the right and the air from the left come together, they mingle. So there's no separateness anymore. And you might imagine that it's kind of right about here, just above the level of the eyebrows, in the center, right back there, behind where my finger is pointing now. You might imagine that the air starts to mingle there. So breathing in through both nostrils, and then sensing that the breath mingles at that point in the forehead, and then exhale, let the air come out the nostrils. So it's like you're forming a little triangle, coming in the right and the left, merging at the point of what we call the third eye in yoga, and then exhaling, air coming out both nostrils, back to the base of the triangle. So let's try this third eye breathing, we call it in yoga. How does that feel? One more breath. And then you can relax all focus there. And we're going to take our focus a little bit deeper into the body. Sometimes I find that third eye breathing helps me to focus a bit more. It helps to clear my head a bit, bring me into the practice, not involved in whatever I was doing before. So continuing with your eyes closed or looking down at the floor where it's boring, continuing to breathe in and out through the nose, continuing to follow the sensations of breath. So what if the air comes in the nose, moves up towards the forehead, and then keeps going down through the throat, into the lungs? Can you kind of feel that? Maybe you feel some movement in the collarbones that signal that the breath is coming in or leaving the body. Maybe you feel some movement in the chest. Maybe you feel movement down towards the belly. So you're welcome to place a hand on your body, maybe one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly, and start to relax into the natural movement that comes with breath. Whatever just happens, all on its own. But with your hands touching somewhere on your body, you may be able to kind of really connect a little bit more with what kind of natural movement happens when you breathe. Just let your hands ride the swells and dips of your breath. And you're welcome to explore a deeper breath now, getting even more conscious in our connection to breath. A deeper breath, longer breath, more breath. And as you know, when we come into our movement in a moment, we'll be focusing quite a bit on moving in time with our breath. Breath being the bridge between our bodies and what happens in our minds. And then you can release your arms wherever you're most comfortable. You can forget about forcing breathing anywhere. And you can open your eyes if you like, and just kind of have a fresh look around your space. Does it look different to you now? Now you've just taken that little break from being in this space, little mental vacation sort of. So if you have any kind of shift in perspective just from that first 5 minutes of connecting with breath, keep that tool in mind, because if there's ever a time in our lives where we needed a shift in perspective, it might be now. So let's keep that in mind. I'm going to move over to my practice chair and we can get going on some movement now. So take your time as you lift up from your comfy chair and transfer to the more firmly oriented chair. Tip my computer down so you can see a little bit more of what's going on at foot level here, because that'll be our real focus to start with. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking for perhaps a yoga block, or if you have a box of Kleenex, that will work. And then I also have my yoga strap here. So again, there's other things that you can use for that. There we go. I feel like I should have had a pedicure for my feet. I'd known they were going to be on camera. Oh, and I forgot to mention one other little prop that's going to come in very handy. Do you have like a washcloth or a little hand towel that you can go grab real fast? Nothing heavy, nothing thick, not a bath towel, but I have this little old bit of a towel that I've ripped up to use for years and years. So this is going to come in handy. You don't have to have it folded any special ways. It can just be there on the ground. Okay. So when you're ready, we'll come to seated mountain pose. So you're going to sit a little bit forward in your chair, even out the weight between each one of your sitting bones, so you can really kind of feel those bones pressing down into the chair, and draw your awareness down to your feet. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale, lift and spread the toes, and exhale, relax and back down to the mat. Inhale, lift and spread, and exhale, relax. Inhale, lift and spread, and exhale, relax. This is where the first time we might use the block. I'm going to place the block in between, or the box of Kleenex, in between my calves like that. Now, if it makes more sense for your body to have the block this way, that's fine. But for me, you notice that I can keep my shin bones parallel with each other while placing the block like this. And this is just to stabilize my legs. As I inhale, I'm going to push on the outside edges of my feet. And as I exhale, I'm going to push on the inside edges of my feet. And then roll back and forth. So you can see we're starting to move into ankle joints here. Flexibility in the ankle joints is often compromised, especially when we get older. But it definitely really holds us back from being able to do the things we want to do, because it'll pick our knees and then obviously our hips as well. Everything's connected. We'll start to pay the price. On your next inhale, come up onto the balls of the feet. And as you exhale, rock back to the heels. Trying to keep your shin bones parallel to each other so we're not wobbling all over. And coming back. And one more time. Wonderful. And then you'll recall this from our joint freeing exercise. Inhale, rolling the ankle in one direction, and exhale, rolling the ankle in the other direction, and then repeating that another breath. Good. Now you could be hanging onto your leg or your pant leg, and then relaxing that down. And let's go to the other side. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. So we've loosened up a little bit through the ankle joints. I want to work a bit on strengthening, and that's why I thought we'd grab this old towel. So the washcloth or the towel can be on the floor, and pretend that you aren't able to bend over, which happens sometimes, or pretend that you want to pick the towel up from the ground with your toes. So obviously a lot of us, that's just not going to be an option to pick the towel up from the toes. But you notice what I'm doing here is I'm massaging into the towel with my toes, trying to pick it up as though I was trying to pick up a pen from the floor. Good. And it doesn't matter if you pick the towel up or not. I just want to kind of have that massage of the toes into something soft. And do you notice that my right hand over here is trying to pick the towel up? This is where we notice this miswiring that develops in our brain over time. My hand has no job, but it's like jumping in, trying to do the job. So that's the kind of thing that we think about in yoga, is how we have all this miswiring. Good. And then while we're still working with this foot, let's do something different. Let's take the foot now, place it on the soft padding of the towel, and roll it all around. So I'm rolling right around the whole perimeter of my foot into the soft towel. And now if you encounter any pain here, you're going to reduce the range of motion, not move as much or as dramatically as I am. I'm exaggerating the movement so you can kind of get the gist of it at home. And then be careful with this one, but it is kind of fun. Take the towel and tuck your foot under so the top of the foot is on the towel, and just kind of polish your floor. Ooh, yeah, you can get a few cramps with that one. We're really getting into some tight places here. And then you can kind of move the towel side to side and back, polishing your floor. If you have carpet, you might not be able to move quite as easily, but you can still roll your foot around on the top of the towel. Yeah, like that. You know, kind of massage the toes. I know we're spending a lot of time with this, but hey, your feet have to take you a lot of places, right? Okay, let's just put the towel to the side for a moment. Come to a seated mountain pose. What's the difference between this foot and that foot? I don't know about you, but this foot feels so alive to me right now. It's tingling. It just seems like it wants to do more stuff. This one, I'm not even registering this foot. It's like I don't even have a foot. So let's get this baby doing a little bit of things as well. So we'll get the towel over to the second foot. And then it's like we're going to try to pick the towel up. Oh, look at my right foot. It's much more dexterous than my left foot, which is interesting. But maybe you pick up, maybe you don't. And it's funny how the two sides of the body are so different. And just this is strengthening your foot. That's it, good. And then after we've done that for a while, we can take the foot and just kind of massage it all the way around. So I'm rubbing my sole of the foot into the soft surface of the towel, trying to massage and get circulation. There's a fatty layer, particularly under the heel, but all through the bottom of the foot. And it's one of those places as you get older, we lose the fat. We want more fat here. We get it other places we don't want it, and here we really need it, and we lose it. So this is a way to kind of hydrate all those fat cells and to really try to plump them up a little bit so we get a bit more cushioning under our foot. And then of course, here's the tricky one, tucking the foot back underneath and stretching the top of the foot. Yeah, that's kind of the real tricky one there. Okay, and then let's see if we have a better sense of both feet at the same time now. Both feet a little bit more alive and stretched out. Okay, we're going to grab our strap. Now that our feet and our ankles have been kind of woken up this afternoon, we're going to use our strap to help us wake up the knees. So we're going to take the strap and we're going to wind it underneath one of our legs. If you have a sore knee, let's work with the other leg first. That probably would be a good idea. And I'm going to use the strap as like a harness here to lift my leg a little bit, sit up nice and tall. And as you inhale, gently kick forward, and exhale, let the leg drop back. And what I'm looking for here is a straight line. As you can see from your perspective, if you look at my ankle joint, my knee joint, my hip joint, they're all in one vertical line. So I don't want the knee pointing out to the side, and that's an exaggeration. So beautiful. And that works on that side. Let's move the strap to the other side and create a sling for the second leg. Inhale, straighten out, and exhale, bend. What we're looking for here is to try to find a range of motion that doesn't cause pain, that moves fairly smoothly, and in a slow meditative pace, so we can really pay attention with our brain what's happening in the body. Good, so that's the warm up for the knee. It's so important, and I know most of us have had the experience of going to physio for a sore joint or something like that. And we get, 30 repetitions of exercise, and the expectation is you're going to build that and do more and more. Yoga therapy is a little bit different in that we really think about how the brain is interpreting the movement of that joint. So if you're really aggressive and push with the joint, the brain can literally get nervous and it can say, nope, we're not going to give you that range of motion because we don't trust you. So that's why it's so important to operate in a pain-free range of motion. Let's try some strengthening for the knee now. We're going to take the strap under the ball of the foot. Hold the strap. And again, we're creating a sling, our knee, ankle, and hip in one straight line, but the sling is under the ball of the foot. And then when you're ready, we're going to take an exhale, pull the belly muscles in, and at the same time, push out through the heel. Inhale, relax. Exhale, push out against the strap, pull the belly muscles in. So it's important to engage the belly muscles on the exhale as you put the pushing action into place. Let's try that a few more breaths, trying to be as steady with the knee, hip, and ankle alignment as we can. And remembering that connection between pushing on the leg and pulling in the belly muscles. Wonderful. Now that's kind of the action that you would take if you wanted to go for a bike ride, or when you're climbing a hill and you have to step your leg up onto a stair or a rock and you've got to pull yourself up. So that's a really important motion for our hips. Let's try the other leg. Strap under the ball of the foot, sit up nice and tall. Remember, your abdominal muscles have a role to play in this. Inhale. And as you exhale, push the leg out. You don't have to straighten all the way, but push against the resistance of the strap. Inhale, release, and exhale, push. Wonderful. And we're moving slowly, meditatively, really, so that we can really let the brain have a lot of energy and resources to look at this movement and decide how is the most efficient way to execute this movement and how to repeat it when you want to go for a bike ride or climb some stairs. Wonderful. And then letting yourself just notice how that all feels. We're going to come to standing to do a little bit of work for our hips, part of our joint frame series. So we've been practicing this in our time together, coming to sit forward in the chair, spreading the feet out a little bit if a wider base of support makes sense for you, hugging the heels back closer to the feet of the chair, taking the hands to the hips, and then when you're ready on a big inhale, push down through the heels and lift up strongly. Wonderful. I'm going to adjust the angle of my camera a little bit now so we can have more of a full body view. And we've also been practicing together moving the chair so that it's a functional movement and you respect your tender back. So I want to move the chair over onto my mat so the back of the chair is facing me. So I'm going to bring the chair close to me, keep the chair close to me, and move my whole body to bring the chair into place. So that puts a lot less strain on the back muscles. So give yourself a little space from the chair, but know that it's here to hang on to in case you need to weight bear on it a little bit. Use it to help you with balance. I'm going to take off my sweater so we can see these movements a little bit better. I'm going to start in a standing mountain pose now. You may notice that your mountain pose feels a little bit different since we've done all that work on the feet and the knees. Holding on to the chair, we're going to work into the hips a little bit with a little bit of sidestepping. So when you're ready, we'll inhale here. As we exhale, we'll step to one side, inhale back to the center, and exhale, step to the other side. Inhale, center, exhale, stepping, inhale, center, and exhale to the second side. Let's repeat that one more time. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, and exhaling. Coming back to center on your inhale and standing tall. Anytime you need to sit back down in your chair, take a little break. A lot of benefit comes from visualizing these exercises. Many studies have shown in exercise science that when people think about doing a movement, the brain is already starting to light up in that area that would have controlled that muscle. So if you find some of these movements not accessible for any reason, take a soft, easy place, like say seated in a chair, and follow along visually. Your brain is such a powerful place, and we really barely tap into it. Okay, we're going to turn to face the back of our chair now. I'm going to come to stand quite close to the chair. My COVID belly is actually touching the back of the chair, so that's okay. I want to have some sort of visceral connection between the back of the chair. You could be using the back of your couch too if you feel that that's sturdier. And the bumper bones, these protruding bones at the front of the spine. Stand up tall. Let your tailbone sink down to the ground like it was a third leg. So you have that sense of the tailbone helping you to balance here. And then when you're ready, we're going to inhale in mountain pose right where we are. And exhale, lift the leg back. Inhale, stand up tall. And exhale, take the other leg back. So this might not be a very big movement, but you can feel it really gets into the big mover muscles of your gluteus area, the buttocks area, and the backs of the legs. Let's do each leg one more time. And we're back into mountain pose. Excellent. And then remember, sitting down in between rounds of exercises is perfectly okay. Taking a little bit more rest. You can always watch this recording another time and catch up on anything you feel you might have missed. And this is a dance move that you might, if you like to do line dancing or something like that, you might have seen this kind of dance move before. I'm going to ask you to step one leg forward, and it doesn't matter which leg, and come up onto the big toe. So you kind of have your knee bent a little bit and you're balanced on your big toe. You can hang onto the chair for some balance. Now make sure both of your hips are even to the ground, so you haven't like kind of lifted up one side or another. And I'm exaggerating again, but try to stay in mountain pose. And then like opening the cupboard door in your kitchen, inhale, pivot on the big toe, and then exhale, point the knee across the center line of the body. Don't twist your whole body, keep your body square, just move the cupboard door. So when you when you open and close the cupboard door in your kitchen, the whole cupboards don't shift, just the door moves on the hinge. Good. And we were thinking of the hip joint as the hinge in that situation. Let's try the other side. So step the foot forward a little bit, come up onto the ball of the toe. Keep your hips even. As you inhale, open the cupboard door, and as you exhale, shut the cupboard door. Take your time, working deeply into that hip joint. Excellent. Let's bring our chair around, practicing our functional movement. So come close to the chair, lift the chair close to your body, and then place the chair where you want it without arching over on your back. Because the hips, the knees, and the ankles do not work by themselves, they're part of your whole body, let's just take a little bit of time to think about the upper body. It's interesting that tension in the hips particularly a tight psoas muscle. That's spelled P-S-O-A-S. It's one of the big hip flexor muscles. Particularly that muscle will lead to a lot of tension in the jaw, difficulties with breathing, and a lot of tension in the neck and shoulders. So everything's connected. So if we want to bring more ease to the hips or the knees, we really have to look at what's going on with the shoulders and the upper body. So let's grab a hold of our towel. And let's pretend we're coming out of the shower or we're done washing our hands, and do a really vigorous drying with the towel. So kind of scrunch the towel up, massage all your fingers. I'll come a little closer. Of course, this movement would be very familiar to anybody. Just we're going to do it very, with intention and a little bit more vigorously, rubbing into the hands, massaging, drying off the hands with your towel, and squeezing the towel with your hands. That's it. So just kind of massaging and really kind of awakening. Now, if you have arthritis in your finger joints, you're going to be a little bit more tender with this. But generally, this kind of massage can really be helpful for people with arthritis because it gets some circulation, it loosens up the connective tissue. Circulation brings cleansing, clearing, and healing. Okay. We can let that towel go. Do you notice how your hands feel after that stimulation? So there's a lot of very sensitive energy centers in the hands we think of in yoga. And so by stimulating them, you kind of get that life force juicing a little bit more into the body. Okay, so let's do a little bit of work with our arms. When you're ready, let's inhale, open your arms like you're carrying a nice big tray, and then exhale, take the hands to the shoulders. Inhale, swing the elbows back, bring the shoulder blades together, and then exhale, release your arms. And again, inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. And one more time, moving with the pace of your own breath, just really feeling the fluidity in the joints of like the elbows and the shoulder blades. Wonderful. And then we'll do a little bit of funny kind of movement just to kind of unwind the tension that we get into the shoulders. So let's start with one shoulder. You can pick whatever shoulder you want to start with and begin a little backwards roll with that shoulder. And try just 3 times, letting the arms stay heavy. Good. And then releasing hands to your lap. Take a breath in and out. We'll move to the other shoulder. If this is a shoulder where you have a little tension or pain, the movement might be a bit different. So you want to just reduce the range of motion. If you're feeling uncomfortable, just be tender with yourself. Good. And then letting your arms be heavy, taking a breath. And now we can think about moving both shoulders at the same time. Again, reducing the range of motion if this is a little bit trying for your shoulders today. The idea of these kind of movements is to bring lubrication to the joint, not to put your brain into panic mode. Good. And then letting your arms rest. Now here's where kind of the brain kind of concentration unwinding part comes. Go back to your first arm. Take it backwards, and at the same time, see if you can bring the other arm forward. So you're doing a little Quasimodo kind of move here, I guess. And let's rest. And it's normal to get really confused and not be able to find that because, hey, you're pulling your brain in a really different direction. It's so used to you doing a certain thing here, and now you're trying to do this really weird bi-directional thing. So if you feel a little confused, that's normal. That's good, really. And it gives you a chance to examine your reaction to being confused and say, wow, that's really interesting how stuck in that habit I am. Because that could mean something for other joints in your body too. So let's try the other side. We'll start with a backwards roll here and then a forward roll here. And like I said, it's normal to have trouble finding this. If you practice this video a few times, it might get a little bit easier, but it's our reaction to the confusion or inability to do the movement that is most interesting. Do you feel your shoulders are a little bit more relaxed now? Sometimes they are a little bit more relaxed. One little thing more before we move back to doing lower body work. I'm going to ask you to take one arm and tuck it gently behind your back. So just holding onto the chair, pulling your arm right behind you is uncomfortable. Just pulling the arm back on the chair seat is fine. Sit up nice and tall. And then when you're ready, look in the opposite direction. So I've tucked this arm behind my back, and I'm going to look in the opposite direction, just till I start to feel a little bit of stretching down through the front of the shoulder, down the side of the neck. And then this is a very, very subtle movement. Inhale and exhale. Tip the chin ever so slightly. Inhale and exhale. So it's a very, very subtle nod, yes. And then bringing the head back to center, letting the arms relax. Do you feel the jaw on this side of your face is a little bit softer? Sometimes it's all connected, and sometimes that helps with jaw tension. Remember I said, psoas muscle, hip flexor muscle, connected to the jaw flexor muscle. So might be a little connection there. Okay, other arm as best as you can tucked behind your back or just pulling back to hold on to the chair. And then we'll take a little gentle turn with the neck. Please be very mindful of how far your neck goes. We don't want to push. And then as you exhale, dip the chin down just a little bit. Inhale, come back to center. Now we don't want to lift the chin. We just come back to the normal place and then come back down. This is a very soft movement. And then come back to center and just notice if maybe the jaw feels a little bit more relaxed. You can kind of exaggerate that by doing a little bit of, like letting the jawbone unhinge and, I know that kind of looks a little silly, but it really can't help to release tension in the jaw, which translates down to the hips and vice versa. Okay, so let's get into a little bit more hip movement. Come forward on the edge of your chair, widen out your knees, tuck your feet back a little bit more. Inhale, push into your heels and stand up tall. Wonderful. Now I want to move that chair again, bring it into position. So I want to make sure that my body is close to the chair as I move it. So when I bend over to pick up the chair, I'm not arching my back. I'm using my knees to bend my knees, bend my ankles, and lift the chair up. I'm going to bring that chair so that it's closer to me and the seat is facing me. We're going to come into lunge pose now. This is something we did in the first week together. Lunges are so wonderful for, at the same time, simultaneously stretching and strengthening our hips. So we'll come close to the chair, really close to the chair, in mountain pose. Soften at the knees, soften at the ankles, and bend at the hips, taking your hands onto the seat of your chair. When you're ready, let's step the right leg back into lunge pose. We're going to be holding this pose for a couple breaths, so let's just talk about it for a minute. The right foot is on the right half of your mat, and the left hip on the left foot on the left half of the mat. You're pushing straight back with your right heel, not out on an angle, but straight back. And you'll feel those gluteus muscles here that we worked on a few minutes ago coming to life as you really push the heel straight to the back edge of your mat. The front knee is directly over the ankle, and you feel the thigh bone and the kneecap reaching to the edge of the chair. It might not touch, but you feel the leg kind of moving out. Take one more breath. And then let's step forward into mountain pose. And you're welcome to turn around and sit down on your chair if you need a more rest for your joints after that very powerful pose. Let's just rest between sides for one more breath. And then again, softening the ankle joints, softening the knee joints, hinging at the hips, bringing the hands to the chair and stepping back with the left leg. The left leg is on the left half of your mat, and the right leg is on the right half of your mat. So the feet aren't directly behind each other. They're separated, like you're standing on railroad tracks, as opposed to balancing on a tightrope. Push the heel, the left heel directly back, really giving yourself a very long line of energy. Feel the left gluteus muscles come a little bit more to life. And then see if you can lengthen the right thigh bone towards your chair, as though your knee was going to reach out and touch that chair. Wonderful. Take one more breath. And then stepping legs together and come back to mountain pose. Let's bring the chair very carefully close to our body as we maneuver using our functional movement patterns. And we might want our block. The block just provides a little bit of encouragement for us to stay organized in our hips and in our knee joints. So often our knee joints are pointed in other directions, and that's fine. But if you put pressure on that day in, day out as you walk around, it can misalign the joints of the knee or the hip, creating long-term patterns that don't feel good, that result in joint replacements. So this is really training us to keep our thigh bones and our shin bones nicely parallel, fitting well into the hip sockets themselves. So sitting up nice and tall, taking a breath in and taking a breath out. Remembering that the breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. So if we're going to create lasting change, lasting strength, we want to be really engaging the mind with this. When you're ready to inhale, pull out through your arms a little bit and lift the chest up towards the sky. Not the chin, but the breastbone. As you exhale, push through your arms on your thigh bones and pull the belly back. Here we are working on core muscles a bit again. So really inhale, lengthening chest up to the sky like there's helium balloons attached. And exhale, pull the belly back. So we're working on those big hip flexors again, those psoas muscles. And we're also working on a lot of other core muscles that coordinate with breathing to help keep pressure off the hip and knee joints. Just the deep breathing, even by itself, creates such an amount of strength in your core, such an amount of coordination and integration. Last breath here. Wonderful. Come back to an upright position. Take a breath in and out. Good. And then let's take your tie. You may be using your house coat belt or an old necktie. Yoga straps have the ability to make a loop. So I can use a loop here around my calves. You may find that you have to just tie your facility, whatever you're using. And I want the support around the outside edges of the calves, nowhere near the knee joints, nowhere near the ankle bones, but right in the center here, where there tends to be a lot of fleshy bits. We want to try to anchor the ankle joints right underneath the knee joints, so we feel a nice stacking there. And this is something you won't see a whole lot happening, kind of like watching paint dry, I guess, but you'll feel it in your own body. As you exhale, try to take your legs apart. And as you inhale, relax. Exhale, try to separate the shin bones this way, laterally. Inhale, relax. Can you feel that moving all the way up into your hips? We're strengthening a group of muscles that are usually weaker in many of us. One more time. And then we can let that go. One of my teachers calls that the pressure cooker. Doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but things are really, really changing. You're going to have us come, if we can, to one last mountain pose. If you'd rather stay in your chair for seated mountain pose, that's fine. I just had one more thing I wanted to show you, and that involves the brick or the box of Kleenex. So as we've been practicing, wide base of support, heels close underneath your body, and then inhale, stand up tall. Placing the brick in between the thighs. So as soon as you stand in mountain pose, and again, we're away from the knee joints. Now, of course, the hip joints are up here, so the block can't get there. We're just in the fleshy parts of the thighs. When you stand with the block between your thighs, feet parallel in your mountain pose, you'll notice right away a sense of the thigh bones rolling inward a little bit, rolling in this direction to hold the block there, right? Especially if your box of Kleenex is a bit slippery, you'll have a natural tendency to start to kind of gather the thigh bones, rolling them in. While you're doing that, notice the lower back. Notice the lower back perhaps feeling a bit more spacious. And sometimes when I've had all these various injuries over the years, as soon as I do this stance, I feel a relief of pain in the low back or in the knees or in the hips. So take one more breath just to try to memorize how this feels. And then we can release. Now, I thought I would offer a little bit of guidance about getting up and down from the floor if you wanted to try relaxation on the floor today. If you're quite convinced you don't feel safe getting down onto the floor or back up, you can move now to your couch or even your bed for relaxation practice. But let me show you how we get up and down from the floor in my classes when I teach live. And this is also how I taught my mom when she was post-hip replacement, so she would still feel that she could be independent in her home. And we just went through that last summer. So I'm going to be careful as I move my chair. And I'm also going to make sure I have some padding on the floor. If you're working on carpet, you might not have to worry so much, but I'm on a hardwood here. So say you decided you wanted to try to get down to the floor. Let me show you how to do it, and then maybe I can talk you through it and you can try it. We're going to bring our hands onto a nice sturdy chair. So this can be your couch or the desk is a bit high, but something that's not going to roll away on you at least. So we come here, and if you have one hip or one knee, there's usually one side that works a little better. We're going to take that knee and drop it down to the ground. So for my mom, she had her right hip operated on. So we went down with the left leg first. Up to you. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the hands, shift them over to the side of the chair, and drop one hand to the ground. So my left knee's on the ground, my left hand comes to the ground. One hand on the sturdy chair, left hand on the ground, and then I just let my hip fall to the floor. And now I'm down, and I haven't had to put any weight on my sore knee, and I haven't really put full weight on my sore hip. And a lot of my people say, yeah, you got me down, how am I getting back up? Well, I got you covered. We just reverse that, okay? So what we do is we put one hand on the floor again, one hand on the chair where they were a minute ago, and we use our arm strength and our core strength to roll back up onto the happier knee, happier side of the body. Then we shift the hands back over onto the chair seat, tuck the toes under, and we push up to a standing position. So if you want to, we can do that together. If you would prefer not to get up and down from the floor, you can start to get adjusted for your relaxation pose. You'll need pillows and blankets and somewhere comfortable to rest. We'll be there for about 10 minutes, so it's worth getting extra blankets. All right, so for those of you who would like to drop to the floor, think of which side you want to favor. Have you had a joint replacement on one side, or is one side injured? Then you're going to go to the other side to put that knee on the ground. I'm going to put my right knee down this time so you can see that from that angle. Hands on your sturdy chair. Better side, happier side goes to the ground. Then I'm going to move towards that side, putting my hand down. So I have one hand on the floor, one hand on the chair. And then slowly let myself roll down to the side of my hip so that I'm on the ground. To come back up, you can do that now or you can wait till after. We're going to roll forward so I can put one hand on the chair, one hand on the floor. I use my core strength and my arm strength to push me up onto the knee I can weight bear on. Both hands come to the chair. I've got a good grip on the chair. I tuck the back toes under and I push myself up into a standing position. So if you would like to move on to the ground now and try your relaxation on the ground, you'd be more than welcome to. We want to start settling ourselves towards the earth, regardless of what props we're using, whether we're on the floor, we're on our beds, or somewhere in between. We want to start to really feel ourselves releasing towards the ground. Use a pillow under your head if that's comfortable. Just try not to put one under your shoulders. So you're just supporting the curve of your neck. And then maybe a pillow underneath the backs of your knees, even if you're on your bed. Sometimes stretching your legs out straight can be uncomfortable for your back. So even putting a pillow underneath your knees can be so helpful and so comforting. And of course, as I mentioned before, make sure you're warm enough. So settling down, feeling the surfaces that are supporting the weight of your body. And just like we did at the beginning of the class, noticing the feet, the lower legs, the knees, the thighs, the buttocks, the whole length of the back being supported, the weight of your shoulders sinking, arms sinking, hands sinking. And if you've managed to find a recliner or a couch or a bed, even your head can sink back. Notice the weight of your body and allow yourself to receive the support of the earth. Notice your breath, moving gently in and out through the nose. And if you liked what we did at the beginning, that third eye breathing, you could do just a few rounds now of deliberate conscious breathing, where you're breathing in through both nostrils to that point in the middle of the head and exhaling. And for some people, they find that that particular method of breathing helps them to clear their mind a little bit. And in our case now, release our attachment to moving the physical body, being more prepared to come to a place of stillness and rest. And then I might invite you to notice the space in your body where you would imagine your spiritual heart to be, maybe in the center of the chest. And on this very cold winter's day, imagine that there's a very warm and welcoming flame here, illuminating a secret cave. So you can imagine on a cold winter's day when it's frosty and inhospitable outside, having somewhere to crawl into that's warm and welcoming and safe, where there's a lovely flame burning, illuminating the inside of this shelter and creating a warm welcome. Allow yourself to kind of, in your imagination, climb into this place in the center of your heart. Feel yourself cozy up. Be able to feel the warmth of that flame, that inner heart fire. Notice the effect on your sensations in the body as you feel warm and supported, protected, ensconced, sheltered. Maybe from this heart space within yourself, you can feel the lungs filling and releasing in their timeless rhythm. And you can hear the heartbeat, the pulse of life, the strength of the heart muscle, pumping rivers of nutrients to every cell of your body, every moment of your life. And perhaps from the comfort and safety of your heart space, you feel a little gratitude. Extend a thank you to the lungs and the heart for their tireless service. And in the heart space, you're intimately connected to the service of these organs, but think of all the other little miracles that happen in your body. The liver digesting what you need and eliminating what you don't. The kidneys filtering and purifying and hydrating. The whole digestive system processing not only what you eat, but what you take in so many other ways, through your sight or your hearing. And maybe extending a thank you or a bit of gratitude to all those hardworking places in your body that so miraculously coordinate to keep you vibrant, to keep you sharing your gifts. Take a few more breaths, just resting in the heart cave, warmed by the flame there. Inhabiting some dark, deep recesses that sometimes we forget about as we tend to externalize our attention an awful lot. This little wellspring of healing energy is present with you all the time, wherever you go. The heart flame is always burning and always welcoming you to crawl in and rest. And feel the benefits of unconditional love, acceptance, sanctuary. If you have a little bit more time this afternoon to spend in resting pose, then of course, take that time. A winter's hibernation seems to make a lot of sense today. But if it's time for you to move on to your next activities, be very gentle as you wiggle and jiggle your fingers and roll your ankles and wrists. If you've been resting on the floor and you need any help at all, coming back with getting up from the floor, I'm going to demonstrate that now. And then we can join each other to share a final Om, if you like. So if you've been on the floor, roll over to your side and then press up with your arms and bring your body closer to your chair. You want to bring the knee that can bear weight closest to the chair. And then we're going to take our hands over onto the chair. One hand on the floor. This is the knee that's going to bear weight. So that's the hand that comes to the floor. One hand on the chair. And push through the arms. Use your core strength to lift up onto the knee that can bear weight. Bring both hands up to the chair. tuck the back toes under, and then lift up to a standing position and adjust into either a seat right there on the floor or on the chair. And let's finish our practice by sharing the sacred sound of Om. So I brought my hands together at the heart, honoring that heart space. I'm inhaling now. Thank you so much for practicing with me this afternoon. Namaste.